Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. For those of you who are new here, this is my casual review series where I just kind of go off script and just give my straightforward thoughts and reviews about games that I roll credits on. Today we will be talking about Pokken Tournament DX. I usually don't typically play fighting games. There's only a couple fighting games that I actually kind of got into. The first being Soul Calibur 2 for the PlayStation 2. I know that is the inferior version because the GameCube version has Link in it, but I had the PlayStation 2 version. And I got pretty into that. I remember playing a lot of Volvo, the guy with the claws, and he was really weird and clown-esque. Anyway, we're not talking about Soul Calibur 2 right now. The other fighting game that I played was Injustice: Gods Among Us for the Xbox 360. And then I guess if you can consider it, I do play a decent amount of Super Smash Bros. Although whether that's typically a fighting game or not, I mean, I know there's fighting in it, but I think even if you think of Smash Bros. As a fighting game, you can acknowledge that the gameplay mechanics aren't exactly like these other fighting games. So, Nintendo provided me and everyone else who had Nintendo Switch Online pretty much a free copy of Pokken Tournament DX to play for a week. And I always kind of had my eye on Pokken because, you know, I like Pokemon. I'm not a huge Pokey fanatic or anything like that, but I do enjoy the main games from time to time, and I do kind of like that Pokemon universe to a certain degree. And so I thought maybe I'd give this Pokken Tournament a chance. I mean, it was free, and what have I got to lose besides my time? So I downloaded the game, and I've been playing a heck of a lot of it over this last week, and boy, do I have some things to say about it. I just want to quickly emphasize that I only played this game in single player. Part of that is because I really do not like competitive multiplayer games. I tend to not have fun with them. I tend to get really frustrated, really competitive. I just don't like who I am when I play these types of games, and I don't like to invest the amount of time that it takes to master a game such as this. You know me, if you have been following my casual reviews, I like to bounce all over the place with games. I like to play a new game every week, typically. So investing that much time and effort into one game usually isn't my style. The other reason being that half of this week I was up at my grandparents' cabin where we do not have internet, so I couldn't play multiplayer anyway. I am only reviewing the single-player Pokken Tournament DX, and I don't like it. Straight up at the very beginning, you're greeted with this image of this girl with a really annoying voice. I really don't like the voice actor they use for this girl, but it's just a still image with text. It is voice acted, at least for this girl. It's not just reading text, so that's kind of nice, but it's just a still image. And she says, "Hey, what partner Pokemon do you want?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, I want to play all of them." And she says, "Oh, well, you can go into this separate menu and change up your Pokemon that way. You just have to go into this whole menu, do this whole change your settings things. But you really need to pick out like one Pokemon that you want to pair up with." And I was like, okay, I guess that's kind of weird. I guess I'll go with Decidueye. And I really like Decidueye because I had one on my Ultra Moon playthrough, and he was my trusty companion. And I had just recently played through Owlboy, so I'm already like halfway to mastering this character anyway, right? Hot take real quick, I do think that Decidueye would have made a much better fighter than Incineroar on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but that's neither here nor there. So I picked Decidueye, and she said, "Okay, now we're gonna enter you into this tournament. It's just for beginners. Like, don't worry, you'll have a great time." And I did do a little bit of the tutorial to check out the game, and I guess here's where I will talk about the game mechanics itself, because that's the whole meat and potatoes of a fighting game, is the game mechanics. So this game actually has 2 different phases, and it switches between the 2 phases. There's, I think it's called field phase, where you can run like left and right, forward and back, and it's like more you're fighting in a actual 3-dimensional space. And then certain moves will trigger, I think it's called dual phase, where it's more like the fighting style that you're familiar with, more akin to Mortal Kombat, Soul Calibur, that kind of stuff, where it's just, you're just like facing them side on, that kind of view. And this was kind of jarring at first, kind of complicated, because certain Pokemon can only use certain moves during certain phases, so you almost have to learn like 2 move lists, and then I don't know, it's just kind of weird. I could never really keep track of what moves would switch to what phase, and sometimes I would think we're in a dual phase, but we're really in a field phase, and then it switched right away, and I didn't really do too much research into what was switching the phase. I just kind of went with it whenever it would switch phases, so that was kind of jarring. I kind of like this mechanic is there's 3 different types of moves. You have your normal attacks, your counter attacks, and your grabs. And it's kind of like a super effective triangle. Like your grabs are good against people who are charging up like a counterattack. Your counterattacks are obviously good against attacks, and your attacks are good against someone who's trying to grab you. So it's like a super effective triangle that way, kind of more akin to like Pokemon super effective types, I guess you could say. You also have an assist Pokemon, and you can assign the assist Pokemon before each round, and they just do something little, like it'll be Froakie, and he will shoot stuff at your enemy, and it'll just do a little bit of damage, kind of like set them up ready for a combo. Or it'll be like Eevee, and he will boost your defense or heal you or whatever. And so this meter will charge up, and you can use a support Pokemon, and then you can choose, it's like a set of 2 support Pokemon, and you choose which one you want to use between each round. I ended up using Latios, and he would charge up really fast, and that would lower the opponent's Pokemon's defense. And then Yveltal, the red guy, he would shoot like this beam on the ground. It took a long time to charge up, but I had like my little guide lady, she had a bonus where she would like automatically charge it on the second round. So I would always use him the second round. So the other meter that charges up is like your Super Saiyan mode. I think they say like you synchronize with your Pokemon, and that just makes them really strong. That powers up all of his or her abilities, and then that also opens up the ability to do this like cinematic powerful move if you can land the attack. So kind of, as far as I understand, kind of traditional like superpower meters, you're just watching all that kind of stuff, but that's basically the combat. So I dived into the move list, and I kind of picked up a couple things with Decidueye before I hopped into this first league for the newbies, and I wasn't really sure what to expect for the single player. Well, the dialogue really isn't there, and there isn't really much story throughout this game. Most of the time when you do come across a character and the trainer does want to say something to you, it's something nonsensical, kind of like if you're playing like an actual Pokemon game and you run in front of someone and it's youngster Joey and he says, "Oh, I really like wearing shorts, they're comfy and easy to wear." Like, it really doesn't have anything to do with the battles. And all of these characters are just flat images. There's like no 3D models of humans anywhere to be found in this game. Like, the image will just scroll up and he'll say his or her weird thing that has nothing to do with anything, and then you battle a Pokemon. And that was basically the whole single player experience. Like, you go through these tourneys and it's just battle after battle after battle, and there's like nothing to mix it up really, battle, and then you fight the tourney leader champion or whatever, and if you beat him, you go into the next tourney, and it's slightly harder guys, and it's battle after battle after battle. And I guess there is kind of a single player story. Most of the time it's just guys saying, "Hey, you hear about this Shadow Mewtwo? Like, that's crazy, right? Like, strange goings on with this Shadow Mewtwo." And after every league championship battle, after you beat the champion, Shadow Mewtwo will come and he will kick your butt, or at least he kicked my butt at each time, until eventually you keep playing through, and I think it's after the third tournament that Shadow Mewtwo comes and I lost to him again, and it said, oh, you better try this again. Like, I don't think this time you can lose. I think this time it forces you to beat him to progress the story. And so that was the first time I ever really struggled against a match. Up until this point, I never lost a round, really. Like, I'm not even trying to brag. I understand I'm really bad at these kinds of fighting games. And so if I was having an easy time, I can only imagine how some of you pros out there who are pretty good at fighting games would be able to just demolish these kinds of tournaments. Like, it would be so easy for you. I think you'd be so bored. So anyway, you fight Shadow Mewtwo, and finally I beat him, and then you go talk to his old trainer, and then you go fight a couple different battles, and then you fight Shadow Mewtwo again, and then that's the story. And then you healed Shadow Mewtwo. He's back to normal Mewtwo. Like, good job. Good. Like, that was this whole story. And then it said, oh, by the way, now it's time to do your last tournament. And then no story plot lines after that. Like, no mention of Shadow Mewtwo or anything like that. I believe I did unlock Mewtwo and Shadow Mewtwo, or just Shadow Mewtwo. I don't know. It was too much of a hassle to switch my character because I had to go into a separate menu like I mentioned earlier. And so it really shoehorns you into using this one Pokemon because you also gain levels as you battle. You gain experience, which is on the surface kind of cool. Like, you're like powering up your Pokemon, but all it does is give you 1 point to upgrade into like how fast you can go into your Super Saiyan Pokemon mode, or like your defense or your attack. And I just put all my points into attack, to be honest. Like, I didn't see any repercussion to just invest everything in attack. Maybe that's a noob move, but that's what I did. And so after I played through 1 or 2 tournaments, my Decidueye was already like upgraded, and it really discouraged me from trying out all the different types of Pokemon there are out there, because I would be interested in trying like Caesar or Machamp or something like that. But my Decidueye is already leveled up, and I would pretty much have to start over if I wanted to regain all those points that I got on Decidueye, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just stuck with Decidueye the whole time, which I guess is kind of the point for fighting games, because it's all about like mastering your character. I did like a lot of the moveset that Decidueye had. He kind of had this like big attack where all these vines would come out from over him. So like if the opponent just won't let off you, you can just like shove him off and do a ton of damage. He also like had a lot of aerial moves, like he could fly up in the air, then he could like swoop down and grab them, so he could grapple them if they're blocking. But if they're not blocking, I usually did like this slam into the ground, and it was this big AoE attack. So I guess I did to some degree get a mastery of Decidueye. I got a couple combos down. I never really watched any tutorials online of him, of like proper combos to do or anything like that, but I just kind of made up my own combos as I went along, I guess. So, but I would have really liked to try out like Charizard or Suicune. You know, there's a ton of cool Pokemon here. It does have a really cool roster, but nope, just Decidueye. So I alluded to the difficulty a little earlier. It's, like I mentioned, it's pretty easy. I never really had too much grief until I got to Shadow Mewtwo, and that's the only time that I ever lost. When I did get to the Chroma League, which was the last tournament, and I would lose a round or two, but I never like lost, because it's always a best 2 out of 3 kind of thing. And I never lost except to Shadow Mewtwo. Even to the final Chroma League champion, I just 2-0'd him. You know, it wasn't that hard, so I can only imagine you guys would probably be so bored with this if you have any experience at all with fighting games, because I am not good at these games, and if I was able to do that, like, easy peasy. Now, they do have a level of customization for your character, but they're pretty crappy. Like, so your character is just an image of a boy or girl, and you can unlock like clothes for your character. But you know, like, I got a scarf, awesome. Which is not really a big deal. You also earn like Pokecoins that you can buy your own clothing too. And this would all be so much cooler if your character was actually like 3D rendered, but it's just a still image that pops up at the beginning of each match. Another pointless thing that you can unlock is your title. I ended up sticking with Hot Battle Trainer. And so you get these titles as you do these achievements, and I'm just a hot battle trainer. And then you can also do a little saying that pops up at the beginning of each match, and my guy would say, "It's so hot out there." And I'm a hot battle trainer, and it's hot out there, and if you lived where I lived, that's actually true in real life. So those were the unlocks. Like, they're really dumb. I really wish, like, maybe different color schemes for my Decidueye, or, you know, I don't know, like different costumes even for a Pokemon. Is that weird to think of? Like, maybe alternative looks? What about like shiny versions of a Pokemon? But no, it's just like titles and, I don't know, clothes for your still image guy. Really lame. Really dumb. I never even like went into the store to spend all my Pokecoins. I just stockpiled them all up from battling. I mentioned a little earlier that you have this narrator helper lady who kind of will help you navigate throughout the menus. She also will give like these really useless tips as you battle, and you can't even like really listen to her because you're focused on battling, but she'll just say useless stuff like, "Oh, remember to use your grabs," and "Oh, don't forget to counterattack." And then, like, before you go into a match, she always says, like, it's like a repetitive dialogue, like, "Oh, this trainer did really good his last match. You better be careful." And, "Oh, that was a really great battle. You should be really proud of yourself." And she just repeats these lines over and over again. I ended up, not until much later, I ended up finding out that you could go into the settings and you can actually turn off those little hints throughout the battle, and it was so much more peaceful. I really didn't like the voice actor. She sounded really like she was trying to be super friendly, but it turned out being pretty goofy. And so, like, when you're doing the storyline with Shadow Mewtwo, she sounds like all happy, like, "Oh, we must really go defeat Shadow Mewtwo. He's gonna destroy the world. We better hurry." But she like always has this happy-go-lucky tone. I don't know why it bugged me so much. I ended up playing on mute and just playing through all these battles after battles after battles while like listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video or something like that. I seriously just grinded my way through this game because, I don't know, maybe I would have taken my time with it if I owned it, but I only had a week to play through this, so I was just playing match after match after match with like nothing really unique to mix it up or anything like that. Like, I'm thinking even back at Soul Calibur 2, you at least had this overworld with like these branching paths, and you could like choose which enemies you wanted to fight, and then you could unlock like different like weapons for your character that had different stats. And then the whole reason I was way into Injustice is I was really invested in the DC story, and they would always like, you'd watch this cool cutscene cinematic of these DC heroes, and then you would be able to play as all those different heroes. So it really mixed it up because you got to play as like all the different characters instead of just playing Batman the whole time. Like, why didn't Pokken do anything like that? I was sick of just playing Decidueye and watching the same animations, the same super attack, listening to the same narration. It just got so grindy and boring. And I get that the whole point of these fighting games is for the multiplayer action, to really like perfect your abilities, like really land these combos, so then you can just feel like you really mastered the game and feel like you're really the best. But if you're more into the single player aspect of this game, I think I would pass this one up, guys. Like, it's a really bad single player game, and I can't believe I played through to credits. And even after the credits, they're like, "Oh, there's actually another tourney after this one." And I'm like, I can't. Like, I rolled the credits. I'm not going to play any more of this game. I'm sick of just playing the same battles over and over again. Also, I have maybe like 3 hours left of this game, and I'm pretty glad that I didn't spend any money even renting this game, because not only would I feel like I kind of wasted my time, but, well, that's not really fair. I never really feel like I waste my time when I play a video game, because to a certain degree, I always do enjoy playing even the worst of games, because I really do like interacting with this form of media. But I wouldn't have been happy if I spent any money on this game just for the single player. Now, if you have a couple buddies who are way into fighting games and stuff like that, or if you really want to get online and pwn some noobs, I don't know, do people say pwn anymore? Then totally, like, go for it. You can, I think the gameplay can actually be kind of fun once you get over the whole weird dual phase switching thing. And if you're really into Pokemon, I think the Pokemon roster is actually pretty unique. But honestly, guys, if this didn't have the ties to Pokemon, I probably would have dropped this after the first tournament because it is just so grindy, repetitive, boring. There's not really any story to mix it up. You get like a couple 10-second clips of Shadow Mewtwo looking menacing, but that's about it. Guys, if I was to give this single player mode a rating, I'd probably give it a 1 out of 5. I'm thinking of all the 2 out of 5s I've given, and I'd much rather play those instead of this. And I feel really bad saying that. Like I said, to some degree, I did enjoy playing through it because I enjoy playing through any game. It doesn't matter what it is, to some degree. If you're just in it for the single player mode, give this one a pass. Like, trust me, it's not good. Anyway, let's hope that the next game is better. We shall find out. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope I really didn't offend all you Pokken Tournament fans. Please forgive me and let me know your own thoughts on the game. Did you download the game over this week and try it out for free? Or are you just like this awesome pro player at this Pokken game and you play online all the time or you play with your buddies? I'd love to hear your experience. And if you have any questions for me, please let me know as well. Guys, that should be it for now. I'll talk to you later. Bye!